Okay, so I think what I like to do is, first of all, through the introduction, I will play a quick introductory video to give you a sense of what IT-Conductor is about, to give you some background about the platform. And then after that, I will outline the solution to the problem of migration and the complexity and how we innovate the approach to solving this issue. And along the way, I will share some personal experiences working with migrations for many years, as well as complex environment for customers. Okay, so that will be the format. And then I will spend about 10-15 minutes to explain kind of the overview of the solution approach. And then we will spend, obviously, we're not going to do a migration in an hour. As you know, migrations is a long-ended process. But we will have some pre-recorded migration demos. It will go through both homogeneous and also heterogeneous environment. And we'll showcase a couple of different cloud solutions, both on Azure and AWS. And then we will go then into, at the end of the recorded demo, we can also show you interactively some of these, how it looks on the platform, navigating around, so you get an idea of the look and feel of how you would be managing an automation end to end. Okay, so let me just go through that, and we will let's start now with the outline video. I will show a video, and then we can talk about the overview. So on IT-Conductor homepage, we have a video about our platform. Hopefully you can hear.
IT-Conductor is a cloud-based application performance management and automation solution. Designed and developed to support the demands of digital transformation, IT-Conductor extends beyond a platform, offering solutions to monitor, manage, and orchestrate enterprise IT through intelligent automation. Managing applications involve monitoring the availability and performance of a wide variety of application domains, including its underlying infrastructure, from databases, servers, network, and storage resources. It is often costly and time-consuming, not to mention the effort and resources required to set up silos of tools that create disparate systems and a lack of cohesion among functional areas of the business. This is exactly why we developed a massively parallel processing engine to manage distributed systems more efficiently and make it simpler for IT teams to perform their tasks. A simple, yet powerful platform that lets you manage systems almost instantly through a secure gateway connection. Get a better understanding of your entire system landscape from a single pane of glass. Increase visibility into system performance with advanced observability features. Perform root cause analysis using time-synchronized troubleshooting. Manage alerts using policy-based exceptions. Leverage the integrated and highly configurable dashboards to show only what is meaningful to you, effectively minimizing noise and maximizing the performance of your systems. Utilize the capability of the platform to automatically run reports on schedule. Manage batch jobs and monitor execution logs. Automate processes using the platform's built-in process composer and leverage existing automation templates. Design, build, and deploy solutions at cloud speed. At IT-Conductor, we are always looking to the future and helping you accelerate your journey towards cloud transformation. We help organizations move to the cloud simpler and faster by providing the orchestration design and deploy engine to enable end-to-end cloud migrations. Stop guessing and start managing. With our remote and agentless management platform delivered as a service, you get exactly what you pay for. As a company, we value your trust. And for that, we commit ourselves to continuously innovate and strive to make our platform more accessible, improving overall user experience. Do you want to learn more? Feel free to reach out to us.
Then you're unmute.
All right, sorry, I had to unmute myself there. So As a platform, we are a patented cloud solution to enable the monitoring and management of all of the enterprise applications and infrastructure. So most of you who've encountered migrations understand there are massive challenges in most of the cloud migrations. There's understanding of what the data protocols are, what the migration of large systems and critical business systems and processes involve. Obviously, always the business care about the downtime impact of migration. And then the other one is mitigating those risks during the migration. How do we manage projects and fitting in many, many systems that talk to each other? They don't simply live by themselves on an island. So some of these most common challenges are typical top of mind for the migration folks. So some of the benefits of going to cloud, obviously, folks have already transitioned a lot of applications to cloud, but there are many more to do. So increasing scalability, we did a recent survey. Scalability is one of those top of mind. How do I scale up without the need to acquire and long wait times? How do I manage my costs going to cloud? Normally in the first year of cloud transition, there are higher costs because you are paying for double infrastructure. But over time, using optimization, you can manage those costs effectively. Increased agility and flexibility, obviously, is the ability for customers to move faster in terms of being able to adapt new technology and integrate with cloud native tools and ability to do reporting, etc. So those give them more sense of scalability and flexibility in adopting with new business and digital transformation. A lot of customers also look to the cloud for enhanced disaster recovery, something that it's hard for them to do on-prem because of the limited access to infrastructure and the time that takes, as well as the costs involved. And so these are some common benefits we see customers leverage the cloud for. Okay. So here I'm going to ask you to kind of bear with me while I kind of indulge in my passions. If you think about doing something well, they say you have to have passion for it and you have to have persistence, but you need to also practice. So when I was thinking about migration, you know, how to relate it to people who may not have done migrations or encountered some large effort. These are what I think about. I love music. I run marathons. Recently had a chance to run a marathon, first time in 3 years since COVID started. So I think about these and I said, well, you know what? They are all pretty long journey. They all it takes a lot of effort and planning. So what are these common things that I try to draw parallels on? So whether you enjoy music, you play a song or maybe an instrument, you understand running a distance of any distance, executing a migration. They say migration is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You might have heard those words. And it's true. You know, a sprint gets over and done quickly, but rarely a migration is like a sprint. It's a marathon. You need to plan for it. So these common traits you have, everything has a beginning and an end, right? So you have a, you know, you start somewhere, you end somewhere. You migrate, you go from A to B. The quality of the outcome is really dependent on how we perform, how we started, how we discover, how we assess the task at hand, what is the strategy and the plan to execute that. And then you have to exercise, you have to practice. You can't just jump in and get it done in one go, right? Most of these, as you understand, needs to constantly practice and only practice, let's say sometimes to be an expert at something, you have to do it 1,000 times before you execute a final plan. So these have in common, look at music, you know, all songs are unique. If you think about any piece of music, they have their unique beauties and challenges. They may be very difficult. But the same song can be executed by many people, played by many people. They come out differently. That's because the instrument of choice and the musician who plays it makes a big difference, right? Same with a marathon. All the races are different. There's no two races that are the same. They have their terrain, they have their conditions, temperatures, right? And how well is the race managed? Organizers, volunteers, how well is it marked? You could be going down the wrong direction if it's not well. and how fit is the runner that they put in the training, right? So all of these make a difference when you go from A to B. Same with a migration. Everybody who runs SAP systems know that every system is different, right? Their size is different, the tables are different, the products are different, infrastructure is different, constraint, network, etc. So each one of them have to be taken in their own light, okay? And how well you execute a migration depends on the tools, the runbook, the procedures. What do you use to do that, right? And then finally, you have the subject matter expert who does the migration. So to me, these are very parallel in life as they are in actual migrations. Hopefully, I draw this parallel to when I go into detail about how to approach in a migration automation. It kind of makes sense. Okay, so end-to-end automated migration. There's a lot of solution out there saying we do migrations. You can use SAP tool, you can use whatever tool you do, DMO, you do any kind of live migrations. What does it mean by end-to-end? Okay, our automation approach after many years of doing migrations, I run migration factories for IBM, for Sun, for SAP, for very large institution. One of the common thing is that I want to practice as many times as possible to get it right. But every time you practice, it takes so long, takes so much resources and energy. So the automation approach really is to minimize that. If once you automate something, you can rerun it over and over again and get it right, tweak it here, tweak it there, right? The easy deployment of applications, who likes to sit there and run installation? Nobody does, right? It sits there, takes a long time, takes hours. And everyone who does it, if you don't follow all the steps, you might end up with a different product or different configuration, right? So the great agility of delivering that over and over again for a consistent result makes it easy to deliver your company digital strategy, right? So this end-to-end means that we go from the beginning, we assess what is it that we are migrating, we understand it well, what are the footprint, what are the size, what are the complexity, and then we have the process to repeatedly practice it, deploy it before we go into production. That means that we can guarantee consistent results, okay? So here's the migration approach to the cloud. So to help this, we basically created an automation process through our workflow engine. This can orchestrate the migration, the build of the systems, the movement of data, and even the health of the source and the target system. These predefined workflows, they are essentially best practices. So if you have a run book of 200 steps that you used to do manually between 3 or 4 different teams, they need to be digitized so that they can be done and tracked online in near real time, okay? And then the expertise that has to be delivered, like I said, you can run a migration with subject matter expert or certified migration expertise, or you can build the expertise into the process and have people that can execute the automation. So the scalability, whether you're moving 5 systems or 100 systems, comes when those workflow is digitized, and you can have even your average, not even certified migration people, because like you drive an electric vehicle, you don't need to know what's underneath the hood. You drive it, you enjoy the experience, right? Same goes with migration. If we digitize the expertise into a platform, you don't need an expert OSDB migration engineer to run it. You can execute it, you can spread it along the team, and you can manage much more volume in terms of a parallel migration. So how we approach the execution of the migration project. So as I say, with everything in life, if you plan, right, you assess what is there, you discover that, right, you break it down into bits and pieces. So in music, there are stanzas, there's you know, choruses and verses, right? You have to understand each part. Each of them are different. They cannot be approached in the same singular manner, okay? Same with migrations. Every system is different. Every product is different, right? And the size of the system is different. How we map to target architecture, right, is designed following best practices, the blueprinting. How do we land this on a target cloud platform? Once you understand that mapping, then you can develop the DevOps plan. What we do with that is match that to deployment templates, right? So then we can start doing the repeated deployments in order to understand how long it takes, what needs to be tweaked, what is the result, and whether that is what we actually set out to build. What's on piece of paper for architecture doesn't mean what is launched and deployed. All right, so you need to do that, and then you finally come to the deployment phase. This is where rubber meets the road. You build the target systems, you've connected the source to the target, you repeat the migrations over and over again, and then now you are ready to do the final cutover. So these phases allow us with automation to be done repeatedly and streamline the process. So with working with many customers, we have understand the ability to streamline the discovery process. If you are doing manually discovering systems when you're migrating, whether you have 20 or 100 systems, that is a laborious process to understand what is the cost, what is my compute, what is my storage model, etc. Understand the nature of the configuration of the system along with the performance baseline. So we break it down to the distill phase where we talk about really deep diving on each system, understanding their nature, their baseline, so that we can match and build a target system that perform as well as have resiliency equal or better than a source system. Once the design of the environment is matched to the target cloud, we develop the templates that will deploy those, and then we deploy that. So these are some typical savings we see over the project. Of course, the more systems you have, automation will increase the efficiency, right? Reduce the chance of errors. When you have a team, a large team, maybe 20, 30 people working on a migration project, you want them to execute exactly the same way so that you end up with the same result, right? Every single time, and not deviation in configuration that might cause operational support issues. So how do we do this with discovery? We have the technology now to discover, let's say, an SAP environment through the LMDB, the landscape management database that SAP has. We extract that data, and very quickly, within an hour or two, we're able to fully discover whether they have 10 or 20 or 100 systems, all of the instances that they have, all the information about their compute, all the systems, the host names, etc., what components there are. This is level one discovery. When I say level one discovery, it's like assess what is the size of this thing that I'm trying to migrate. You know, is it a small, medium, large, right? This gives you that sense. You can start building out cost models. You can start having some indication of what your project and your effort is, okay? So once you have this information, you go into the distill phase. This is where our level two discovery happens. With the landscape information, we can simply connect each system. Let's say we have 50 systems, but we're only interested to migrate 20, maybe 30, I'm retiring. So you can connect those systems in level two, which is leveraging our APM, our application performance management, right? This is to discover in-depth information that gives us ability to say, how is it configured? How many app servers do I have? How are the database? Are there clusters? What are the current performance trends in the exhaust system, right? Do I have errors? Do I have configuration? Do I have components that are not going to be compatible with the cloud platform, whether it's an OS or whether it's a database or the application versions or kernel, etc. This gives us that ability, and then it builds the baseline for us. How would I know how to build a target if I don't know how the source system is utilized? Am I going to oversize it, undersize it? This is where all of that come into play, right? It becomes important. And then once we do that, we match the design to architecture, the target. So am I moving to AWS or GCP or Azure, right? What is my target blueprint that is supported by both the software and the infrastructure vendor? So IT-Conductor is an agentless platform, and we simply, on our cloud, interact with your secure environment through a secure gateway. Right. So in our IT-Conductor gateway, you have the source system, you have the target system. Obviously, on the infrastructure side, you You have connectivity between the two in order to move data, of course. But we can, again, through here, LMDB, discover the systems, right? And then once we have that in IT-Conductor, we can do deep discovery of the application. We match it to a target template, then we build our infrastructure as code, and then we deploy that. And then through that mechanism, we're able to then monitor and manage that system as the data move from source to target, whether it's backup recovery or whether it's replication, anything related to the data movement itself, we can monitor and manage that end to end. Okay. So how does the workflow work? So we have an inbuilt native workflow engine. We can have a designer mode where we can build a design simple workflow. Everybody understand blocks of activities. We have nested activities, etc., that support very sophisticated and very complex processes that could be hundreds of steps long. We can simplify it and externalize that into a workflow that is, once instantiated, can be monitored through our automation engine and report statuses and failures, etc. Okay. Once deployed, we also have migration dashboards. If you can look from left to right, if we discover you guys still hear me? I had a slight blip on the network. Okay, great. I don't know what that was. That was a slight power outage. Okay, so we have the dashboard that allows us to identify the source systems. We have our migration processes that support the provisioning of the systems, the configuration jobs that move the data, install the software, and then we have the target where our cloud instances are launched. You can fully discover and manage these as well. So that's the deployment phase. So here's the opportunity. Of course, we have a centralized dashboard to monitor the process end to end. We have performance KPI that will monitor both the activities as well as the systems that we deployed. We get notifications for any critical things happening on the system. Obviously, if you're migrating, you want to make sure you're not overly stressing your source system. If you're doing live replication, you want to make sure you can throttle all that. And then, of course, the automation brings together all those runbooks that you have carefully orchestrated into a running automation engine, right? And then looking at the overall impact of the environment that you deployed. So as soon as the system is deployed, we're able to monitor and manage that. So that hypercare is super important. Obviously, you can't just land something and not have the monitoring for that environment in the cloud. So that's very important. So what we do support today, we have AWS. We're actually on a certification path already for SAP migration certified platform for AWS. On Azure as well, we have solutions that can deploy heterogeneous as well as homogeneous migration. Sybase, Oracle, HANA, and SQL. These are most of the common ones. And also on GCP that we are working on that as well. So again, our platform can apply to many environments, many OS databases, and heterogeneously provide the ability to orchestrate across a disparate system. Okay, so that's the static component. I'm going to, at this point in time, show a couple of the pre-recorded demo migration. So as I said before, this is something that sometimes can take 24, 30, 40 hours to run. So I want to make sure that we have a basic migration. So let's start with an S/4HANA migration.
To the target destination or secondary system.
Okay.
On the other hand, backup and restore rely on SAP's backup utility to create an image of the database, which can then be transferred to the target system. Each of them has advantages and disadvantages that you should consider prior to deciding what approach to use. But for the sake of this video, we will be focusing on the asynchronous replication method and how we use the IT-Conductor platform to automate this process. Migrating applications and databases starts with understanding the source environment, or what we call the discovery stage. This is where we discover the true state of a system. It is in this stage that we determine the number of active and standby hosts, as well as the sizes of the CPU and the memory disks, to match the system requirements for the target environment that we need to build. For multi-tenant database management systems, it would be tricky to understand the nature of the source application environment, if this will be done without the use of a tool capable of linking the bits and pieces of your entire system landscape. IT-Conductor leverages a multi-layer approach to automatically discover deep dependency chains among different components in the source application environment, which then makes this stage a lot easier for you. Here you can see the different systems that are already being monitored in IT-Conductor. For this demo, we will be using the SAP HANA systems that we currently have here, the HB1 and the HOZ. Now for the next stage, or the distill stage, we need to generate performance and configuration baselines that we can use to measure the migration success. You can capture performance metrics directly from the IT-Conductor service grid, where you can see the different resource utilization for CPU, memory, and more. You can also capture the active standby count from the execution log as we've shown earlier, but you have the option to run a script from the CLI to capture the system replication state as part of the configuration baseline. And now for the final stage, we're ready to instantiate the process definition and start the migration process. We do that either by scheduling the activity to a specific date and time, or directly running it from here. For this demo, let's do the latter one and click on the Run Instantiate button here. You will be redirected to this page, and here is where you can input the activity name of your preference, and then here, you can enter a brief description of the activity, but for now, let's just type in the same. And then this one is the removal age or the removal time for the instantiated object to get deleted automatically. Then click the icon here to initiate the execution. A message box will appear to notify you that the process definition has been created. Let's click the activity link just so I can show you how it runs in the background. Notice that the activities have turned blue, which indicates that the process definition is preparing for the execution. This color will change in real time as the process executes. So you can refresh it every time. Here you can see that the Provision Azure VM activity turned orange, which signifies that the activity has already started. You can also see the status here when we click on the activity. You also have the option to click on the built-in refresh button here. Now we can see that the status changed to in progress. And when we click this icon here, the execution log will pop up. This one is a self-refreshing log, so you don't need to refresh the platform just to see the updates. You can see here that the resources are being created, and the execution log is updated in real time. You can also check the portal directly, whether or not the resources have already been provisioned. Once the Provision Azure VM activity is completed, the next activity, which is the Install HANA activity, starts automatically. In this case, we used Ansible in automating this part of the process. So here, you can see the status, the start and end time of the Ansible tasks, and when you click on one, you can see more information about that particular task execution. Fast forward to the last activity, we can see that the Replicate HANA has turned orange, which again, indicates that the activity has started. This is also an Ansible activity. So similar to Install HANA, you can check the task status here, as well as the execution log here, where you can see the logs updating in real time. And finally, when the execution completes, you will see all three activities in green. For validation, you can check the status from the service grid. You can do that by navigating to the system, expanding the replication, and from here you can see the different components, their metrics, and the replication status. Alternatively, you can verify the system replication status by running the same script we used before the migration. Data migration has never been this easy.
That is the demo of the HANA migration. I will also quickly show the Oracle one for those who think that we need to treat them equal. Here's the Oracle one, so bear with me.
Welcome. In this video, we will take a deep dive into the automated Oracle migration using IT-Conductor. By the end of this video, you will be familiarized with the process definition developed to migrate Oracle from on-prem to the cloud. Let's get started. This is the process definition for migrating Oracle from on-prem to Azure. As you can see, we have different activities in this process definition, like the Azure activity, Ansible activity, and the procedural activities that support running PL SQL scripts in IT-Conductor. These activities are connected in such a way that it resembles the manual processing of the Oracle migration. To give you a glimpse of what makes up a Terraform activity, let's take a look at this one. Here is where you define the Terraform script from the Git repository. When you click Go to Git, you will be redirected to the Git repository where the Terraform script is located. We also have a placeholder for storing the Terraform state, which is an essential building block of every Terraform project, as it acts as a database for your configurations. So, when the Terraform activity is initiated, the Terraform state gets saved in this object. Now, let's take a quick look at an Ansible activity. Here, you can see that it is also associated with a script from Git. So, when you click Go to Git, you will be redirected to the Ansible script from our Git repository. Ansible also consists of configurations. When you navigate to this page, you would see the configurations to install Oracle and patch Oracle to Azure. We can modify these configurations as required. A process can also contain subprocesses, which is a complete process in itself, further containing activities and subprocesses of its own. Let's take a look at this primary server setup, for example. You can see that if we further drill down, you would see multiple activities inside it. The Get Database Log Mode activity is a SQL activity. This activity runs to know the status of the log mode and stores it in the object itself. If there's an archive log, it goes through this path. Else, it goes through this other path until it ends. Another type of activity that we have here is what we call the procedural activity. This activity can run the PL SQL script using IT-Conductor. In a nutshell, the process definition initially provisions the virtual machine in Azure, installs Oracle, patches the Oracle, sets up the Oracle DB on-prem for the migration, and then sets up the Azure again, enables the broker on both sides, and then finally installs the app server in Azure. Now, to start the migration process, you can click the Run Instantiate button here. You can also schedule it to run at a specified date and time. But for the sake of this video, let's go ahead and start the process using the Run Instantiate button. You can type in the activity name here. Let's say Migrate Oracle to Azure. And the description here. For the sake of this demo, let's just type in the same. Context is.
So I'm going to stop there. Similarly, it's going to be like HANA. It's going to go through and migrate the system. So at this point, I want to kind of jump in a little bit, talk about some of the interactive components to show you. So when we showed about the discovery process, so again, this is our live ILMDB connection to your SAP landscape. So we can discover in detail all the systems. We can get the landscape overview. So the first step is to understand the source environment. With this, you can simply export if you want to provide a quick ballpark for all the systems that you're going to need to provision to migrate these, what size they are, right? And then once we have that, we can connect systems. So for instance, when you first start, you don't have level 2 information about deep dive into the environment. You can know when you get into a system, for instance, the S/4HANA system, if there's a monitoring icon here that's already been connected. But likewise, if there is a system that's discovered and you want to understand more about its footprint, baseline, and configuration, you can go through here. There's no monitoring yet connected. That's no level 2 APM yet. You can see that we discover about the central instance. We have the information about all of the dialog instances, etc. The host, the database, all the different versions. All of this automatically discovered. We can then, if we want to go level 2, we can configure SAP monitoring on it. And with one click, you're able to automatically populate the information used to configure our APM, which will do a deeper dive discovery of the application and performance, previews this stuff, and then all you need is a monitoring account. So all of this happens agentlessly. Quickly, within a little bit of effort, you'll get the level 2 information about your landscape. So for instance, when we look at a migration dashboard, for instance, this is an example of a migration dashboard. So this is for our AWS. We have a similar one for Azure, for instance, right? So once you have the systems connected, well, you can see on the left, on-premise environment, you discover all the VMs or the actual compute infrastructure that you have to work with. From this point on, you can then match to the target, the templates, as you can see, provisioning jobs, etc. here. So when we deploy an S/4HANA environment, you can see the complexity here. So in this AWS configuration, actually what we've done is to simulate in a demo environment 2 systems deployed through automatic parallel provisioning of the systems. Installing the HANA database is the application, S4 applications. Once these are done, we can confirm, we can start replicating from source to target. Once we confirm this is actually a manual step. So let's say once they build, and you say, if I'm doing a migration, I might pre-build my target system, and my source system maybe during the test purposes is a copy of the system itself, not an actual copy, not an actual system during tests, because you don't want to impact the user. You can build this, and then you're ready to confirm the replication, right? So we can also support backup restore. So if you had a backup weekly you want to use, we can do that as well. And then you pre-configure the secondary host, and that, for instance, you can see the type of task that happens. So you can basically configure, stop the instances, enable the replication, and then you replicate. So here's the replication step, and we will monitor as soon as replication starts. When it finishes, all the logs are available. So every execution is available with the logs. You can see we get the native logs from the actual configuration of the Ansible task. So whether it's a SSH or Linux, Windows or SQL, etc., we can get the native log for that. So other activities can follow. If you're post-migration, you're doing installation of the additional app servers, etc., that can be connected as a different automation process as well. So that's an example for HSR that we do. Talking about heterogeneous migration, because folks say, well, that's fine for homogeneous, but I want to go from Oracle to something else. Do you support that? As we say, for instance, this one on Azure, we just recently ran a test, which is a migration from on-prem Oracle to Sybase, SAP on Sybase on Azure. Similarly, you can see the workflow here that we built, right? So we can go from provisioning the VM, configuring the app servers, installing the ACS, and then provisioning everything on Azure, right? And then pre-configure the Sybase database. And from on-prem, we have a separate activity that does the SAP export through the SWPM. And then we can import that through our IT-Conductor. We can import the database and install the path on the target system. So again, this is a similar type of approach to do heterogeneous migration as well. So not just homogeneous. Anything flexible we can interact with at both the application level and the database level as well. And then once they're landed onto the target platform, as you can see, we auto discover what's on Azure, what the compute, what the nodes are. We have a control all here as well. If you're testing, you can stop and deallocate it right from our platform without having to go into Azure. And of course, all the VMs and tenants, etc., show up, and you have that complete view, right? So you're basically going from source to target, and you are trying to make sure that as little manual work is done as possible, and in a repetitive process. And through the repetitive process, you are able to see in depth what you would have done if you say, I want to look at all the different tasks. Actually, this one's already past the 14 days. So we have deep deployment capability, monitoring capability of what goes on, and then also notify you if there's a process failed, right? So we have that capability there. So at this point, I also just quickly talk about some of the other advanced functionality that we are working on, and I want to talk a little bit about the blueprint process. As people say, how do you help with the design process? So we can actually tag a source system through our APM discovery. We can generate a blueprint, which basically drills down and find out all the infrastructure components that are made up in that system group. So we understand, okay, maybe there are 2 compute nodes, there's a 2 database node and a cluster, etc. And we actually have a graphic designer to help you visualize what that would be on a target platform. So you can drag and drop and build that on the target platform as well, right? So this is the kind of visualize and build the target and map it to some standard blueprint that the target cloud environment supports. Okay, so that's kind of what that blueprint process looks like. What else? So if you're on, let me just explain a little bit more on like the APM side. So for instance, when we're on the APM, once we discover what sort of information is available. So let's say customers say, I have this kind of performance, I want to improve performance, I want to scale out, maybe add additional resiliency, build HA components. We support the idea of clusters, multiple nodes, for instance. If you have a HANA database, you want to do multiple nodes, you can then define the number of members, whether it's a primary, secondary, you can do that as well. And we will also monitor that as part of the clusters. Now, with the SAP system themselves, once they discovered, we have ability to deep dive into their application overview, and this helps support throughout the process. So if you're changing landscape while you're migrating, it could be a 3 months, 6 months effort. The source system may go through changes. Your database might grow. You might have added new app servers, right? So the problem with most approach today is very static. We look at in-flight information, and if something changes on the source, you want to make sure that you understand there and reflect it in the configuration for your target build. So something like our system overview gives you the ability to understand the changing nature of performance and also user utilization of the resources, whether you have over provisioning of work processes on your app servers or something, or under provision. All of that stuff comes out of our performance management platform. Okay, so I think at this point I wanted to pause, and then I'm going to open up for questions if anybody has questions. It gives you an ability to, at this point, see, hopefully relate to whether you are migrated already and you want more management, or maybe you helping your system to be more resilient, or building additional systems for N+1 upgrade, or where you're doing a system refresh. We have the automation capability to support those type of operations. So it's not just migration. Migration happens to be one of the most complex one that we tackle. Okay. Okay, so if anybody has questions, or raise your hands or type in the chat, we'll be happy to answer them or interactively show you anything else you'd like to see on the platform. Well, okay. So for those of you who are interested in the trying out this, it's fairly simple. We have our agentless platform that can be up and running within an hour, securely connected to your infrastructure. So if you want to maybe just explore the landscape discovery, for instance, to understand more about your SAP landscape, this portion is the first step there that can be done. And then if you want to give us a try to say, let's say I want to test migrate one of these, or maybe build something similar on a cloud, we can help you with that, and we can be up and running, clone the Git repository, understand the need, and then do the mapping. So we've done several of these with both customers and partners who came on board. And prior to this, only do things manually, or maybe they have automation to only deploy the target system, but they don't do any automation related to the assessment portion through to the migration portion. Oh, so try to unmute now.
Yeah,
Johnson.
Hi, Lin. Johnson here.
Hi. Hey.
So I have a question. So on the automation side, is it possible to, when you're doing the migration, to combine with the database replatform? So for example, if my source is Oracle and I want to migrate and replat at the same time, is that covered in the
Yes.
functionality?
Yes. So so IT-Conductor is designed to kind of fit in any level of activity that you wish to introduce, right? So any of these can be, let's say I'm provisioning a database. It can be the same database if you're migrating to a different database. So let's just say Oracle to HANA or Oracle to Sybase or whatever, SQL Server to whatever. We support both running the heterogeneous on the source through driving the SAP tool, so like SWPM or SUM, or and then taking the export, and we build a target database and we import that through. So this import DB actually is an Ansible activity that looks at the output exported from the source database and then in a heterogeneous manner import that to the target environment. So yes, we do support that. And so our execution configuration allows a lot of flexibility. So when you build systems, you can define what am I doing? Am I going to migrate from one database to another, replatforming it, or am I moving even like a newer kernel on the target versus the source? We can define all of that parameters. What exactly are we going to use for the kernel? And some of these will be available through the software repository. We even have a central SAP software download manager that can help download all of that and stage it, make it available for installation on the target system as well. So yeah, I mean, really the assessment part understands what is it I'm moving? Am I changing any component, or is it just straight lift and shift? And if I'm changing the component, what is the underlying supported method of migrating that data?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Hope that makes sense. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hands and then we'll unmute you and you can go ahead and ask your questions. If not, actually, we will be sharing the video as well as a quick survey to give us feedback on the presentation and also the content. And then obviously, you know, if you have any interest, we'd be happy to talk to you. There's, again, it doesn't have to be something you currently doing, right? This is hopefully gives you ability to relate. As I say, I try to relate work with life, and if something comes up in the future where you think some orchestration will help in your scenario, we'd be happy to look into that. So I think some of the automation topic we will have is coming up for end-to-end system refresh. That is another topic that is kind of highly complex, and customers struggle with the end-to-end process in that. So we've created an end-to-end system refresh offering that involves the orchestration of the source system, target system, the automation of the technical configuration end-to-end. So essentially that can be done as quickly as possible to support your project needs as well. So again, on IT-Conductor, our focus today was on the migration, but our platform today supports multiple scenarios for customers, whether you're a direct customer, or you're a partner, or an MSP that run multiple end customers. We have solution and service catalogs that can help you deliver those services. And again, we are an SAP SAP Store solution as well. That means SAP bless our solution. We actually they resell our solution on SAP Store. If you're an AWS customer, also as AWS Marketplace as well, SaaS services. And I think from that perspective, we've been around at least for the last 12 years, working on automation solution as a SaaS solution delivered as a service 24/7. Okay. Thank you very much. And if there's no other questions, I would like to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, and hopefully you can join one of our future webinars on other topics like system refresh or other operation automation, like even the SAP change management. We have auto transport automation, along other things like even the day-to-day auto recovery actions on common things like jobs and queues that fail on a regular basis. We can help automate them as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.